Hello and welcome to Empower, the program that spotlights women who are breaking barriers and driving progress. I am your host, Sharon Ajay, and today on Empower, we are joined by a remarkable woman whose work is changing lives across Africa. She's a leading mental health counselor, educator, and advocate with over a decade of experience promoting mental wellness, trauma recovery, amidst others. She is the founder and executive director of Secure the Future International Initiative, an organization dedicated to mental health advocacy, substance abuse rehabilitation, and support for survivors of human trafficking. Beyond that, she is also an author, mentor, and global voice for resilience and healing. And today, she joins us to share our journey, our passion, and our vision for a mentally healthier Africa. Let's make welcome Dr. Sahadatu Adamu. It's good to have you in the studio with us, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Dr. Adamu, you've done an incredible work across mental health, education, and advocacy. I would like you to share with us what inspired you to focus your career on helping others heal and grow.
So in 2014, I went to visit my friend in an office, and I met a lady, and she asked a question. Why are you here? I said, you're supposed to be at work. I said, yeah, but I have, free time. So, I can do other things. She was like, really? So you have free time and you can do other things? I said, yes. I said, okay, why don't we start something? And that was how the conversation started. And, we started a consulting firm training people. But for me, what caught my attention was the gap. People coming in for trainings, right? Public relations, customer care, and all of that. But nobody was paying attention to the emotional, support for staff members. So everybody just wanted to train his or her staff on, you have to develop yourself. You have to be able to bring in sales into the company and all of that. But the emotional support wasn't there. And so most times when they come, I just figure out that they wanted to have a special conversation with me. But to me, to be honest with you, I didn't know that there was anything, around maybe them really struggling mentally. But having conversations with 1, 2, 3 people, for me, it was like, okay, there's something missing here. So what do we do? How can we do it? And that was how the journey for me started, and then I switched career. So my first degree, of course, was graphics and motion pictures. And when I realized this, I had to quickly switch, to guidance and counseling, because I couldn't do it without, a tool to really support people.
So tell us, how was the switching like? Because that's like two edges of a coin, or two sides of a coin.
Exactly. So when I went back to school, I had to start all over. I had to go do a PGD, because I was switching career completely. And then of course, I had to also a master's and a PhD. But interestingly, for me, it was like the best thing that could ever happen to me, because, I could as well just go ahead and support people without the tools. But of what benefit would that be? And then what would I also be passing around to the people that would really want me to mentor them? So I felt it was just important to, switch, but switch well, where I can really support people with the right tools, helping them and making sure that they're emotionally, balanced. So it was really a struggle. You know what it means to just put down one thing that you've learned for so many years, and then pick up something. Of course, I left school, I think about 2007, and then going back to school 2015 is like, and then 2 different things. So it was kind of not easy, but it was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. Tell us a bit about Secure the Future International Initiative, the SDF. What does it do, and why did you start it?
Okay, so let's start with the why did I start it. So why I started SDF was because I saw a need. Whenever people come to me as a trainer, to support them, build their capacity, the mental capacity wasn't there. And so I felt there's a need to do something. But really what happened was I met a young lady who had 2 multiple, personality issues. So she sat in front of me, was a different person entirely. But the person you see outside is a different person, with the name and everything. So what people know out there is not the name that I know. And for me, it was kind of complex. So it means that a lot of people are struggling. So what do? You have to, find a way to begin to help them. And that was how the journey of SDF started. But basically, SDF is a nonprofit organization, that is focused on mental health and counseling, because we believe that counseling is one major thing that a lot of people in Nigeria don't really think is necessary. But then we have the school career counselors, and they've been there for a long time, forever. I had a counselor when I was in school. So I believe that if we keep creating awareness, especially now that the world is really, going through a whole lot, there is a need for counseling. By the way, counseling has been in existence for a long time. And why did counseling start? Because of mental health issues. So we need to bring these two together so people understand that it's okay to go and see a counselor. And so that was how, the journey of SDF started. And it's been amazing working with students in school, to really support them, because we know that most times, like I said, I had a counselor in school, but it was more of a career counselor. But right now, with the emerging of so many things, people are really struggling psychologically, emotionally, socially, spiritually. So that means at least there should be some level of trained, counselors that can support them. And so, we've been working with schools, trying to get the counselors also to be trained and also understand how to manage people, because you can't say you're a career counselor and you don't understand mental health. Because when people sit in front of you, they might not even be doing well with their career because of a mental health issue. So there's a need to always, put the two together. So yeah, we've been working with schools, of course, working with survivors of trafficking, and it's been amazing, especially when you hear the stories of survivors and how well they're doing now. It's like you're coming from this place and this is where you are. The stories are not, they're not, what you would really expect any human being to go through. You know what I mean? Especially knowing that the pain was also inflicted by another human being. So it's kind of, it's complex, but it's really interesting, to see that a lot of people are also coming out of their spaces now to really seek for help. So it's been amazing.
Wow, quite remarkable. Let's talk about mental health. You mentioned it a few times. Now, mental health I would say not in the globe, but of course, Africa specifically is a bit stigmatized. You don't get to, see people openly talking about mental health, and that has, posed as a serious challenge. I would like you to tell us, how can society begin to normalize conversations around mental health, especially, in Africa?
So I feel it's important for us to understand that the world is revolving. And so if we are acknowledging and accepting that there are a lot of things that have changed, then it means that conversations around mental health too must change, because the cultural beliefs, and the norms, the societal expectations, we also have to understand that they have to change, because people still live in denial because of cultural belief. Nobody wants to put himself out there to say, this is what I am going through, because they are going to say, but it never used to happen in our culture. So why are you, sharing your experiences or going to meet someone to really help you? So we must get to that point where we understand that if we have acknowledged that technology is the leading thing in the world now, then we should also acknowledge that there are certain things that have to change, and things like the cultural beliefs, the values and norms, the societal expectations, how families view what the society will say about their child. We have to understand that things like that equally have to change so that we will be able to normalize conversations.
Yeah.
I can tell you categorically, most women in the North are not allowed to really come out and really share their family, issues or whatever it is. But these days you'll see bold women, bold men, on the social media really expressing themselves, talking about things. It just says that, what used to happen before isn't happening anymore. So can we also acknowledge and accept it like that, and also see how we can support people? Let's continue to have conversations. around the space so that people will feel comfortable, really talking about it. Let's also, get to a point where we create more awareness so that people can come out of their pain and shame and understand that it is about you as an individual and not the society. Because the people that committed suicide, the society have moved, right? They're busy with their activities. So nobody, in fact, they'll talk about you just maybe 2-3 weeks or whatever, and then everything is gone. So people have to realize, come to that, point where they understand that it's about them. Not about the society. It's about you, not about the culture. It's about you, not about, the values that you feel, have been put in for you from, the family background or whatever it is. So we have to move from that. But most importantly, I'll say we can't do this without conversations, creating awareness, and also understanding that mental health is now a public health issue. So, and if it is, then it is something that we need to talk about, because if an individual in this building now is not doing well mentally, he might affect almost everyone in this place. So it means that we just need to have conversations around it.
Well, quite an eye-opener, I would say. Such an insightful conversation. Now, it's interesting to know that you pioneered the Nigerian's first mental health club in secondary schools. It's super, I love it, because I remember during my days in secondary school, we never had anything like mental. We don't even talk about mental health, not to talk about having a club in secondary school. And that's quite an initiative. What motivated this initiative, and what has been the impact so far?
So, what motivated the initiative is creating awareness. How can we get to schools? How can we catch them young? And so we, started a movement, going to the schools, creating awareness, campaigns. But we realized that we didn't want to just go to the school and leave them. We can go to 20, 50 schools and just say, we're here to talk about this, and then we'll leave. What happens next? Where would they run to? And so we felt there's a need to create clubs where they can support themselves. By the way, we've also realized that students do well when they talk within themselves. So it means that if we have to always go there, to see how the club is running, then we can only do that once, maybe just to supervise them. But we want them to be part of the conversation. And so we had to just, get that club running so that they can share their experiences within themselves, talk about things within themselves, and see how they can support themselves. So it's more or less like a support group where, they can always run to and, share experiences. And to be honest with you, it's been amazing. It's really been amazing, because you can hear parents calling in to say thank you. You can hear other parents calling in to say, oh, we want to have further engagements. My child came in yesterday and he said XYZ. You could hear parents saying, I had to apologize to my son yesterday after we had a deep conversation. And then I realized that I've been bullying him for months or for years. So it's really been amazing.
Quite interesting, because I know you're just doing it from your little standpoint, but if it can be made national, I think we are going to benefit, not just as Nigerians, but of course other African countries can also see what we're doing and see the impact it has on, the young children or young adults, and implement that in their own country also. You led the substance abuse rehabilitation program through SDF. Now, what are some main causes of substance use among young people today?
I'll say depression is one. Okay. The reason why they go into substance use is probably because they've been depressed for so long. No one in the family ever noticed. They just feel like, oh, my son doesn't like talking anymore. Oh, he's always in his room. They don't pay attention to, those things. It could also be maybe dysfunctional family. Oh, my parents are always hitting themselves every day. They're always having arguments and all of that. And I just needed something to, get me into a space where I'm comfortable. Now, I'm saying this because I am pointing out from what I have experienced from my conversations with them. Right? They talk about dysfunctional family. They talk about depression. They talk about peer pressure. They tell you, like someone will tell you, it's not like I really smoke the thing, but whenever we go for gaming, I don't want my friends to feel like I'm not, so I just tell them to give me a drag or something, so for him, peer pressure. He just wants to do it because his friends want him to do it, And then again, it's also important to understand the biological factor. So sometimes when you have a parent who is also doing alcohol or drugs, there's a 50% chance that, that child might also struggle with that. But let me share an experience. So a young girl, she came to me when she was 16 and she had started doing drugs at the age of 14. And when we asked her what, led to that, she said, every day my mom leaves the house at about, 6 a.m. because she runs, a shop somewhere. So she leaves about 6 a.m. And then my dad is out also selling his own stuff, about 5 a.m. So I leave in the morning, I pack my clothes in the bag, when we're in school, we call it mufti. So she takes that, her extra clothes, then she wears the uniform, right? But when she goes out, she changes into something else and then they go out for parties and all of that. But one thing that her friends kept on telling her is, when you smoke that thing, you forget your problems. When you smoke that thing, you forget your problems. But by the time she came to me, she was already doing more than 5 drugs. So something that started with just, you smoke whatever it is, but now it's 5. So, they're just different reasons why people get into these spaces, all right? Like I said, it could be biological, it could be dysfunctional family, it could be peer pressure, it could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could just be, environment. You're always around people that are doing one thing, or every day you walk past a particular place and then they sell. There is a particular place in Abuja, but it's no more. I think maybe the campaign was just too much and government had to just do something about it. When people just stroll past that area, I'm telling you, you want to know what's going on there. And I can imagine how many people have fallen victim of just saying, what are they selling here? Let me come here too and buy one. So it's really pathetic, but of course there are different reasons why people find themselves into this space and they're struggling.
That's really sad. That's really sad. Well, we're going to come to your work that focuses on sex-based violence and human trafficking. But before we go there, we'll be going on a short break now. And when we return, Empower continues.
Culture connects us beyond borders. It's a bridge between traditions, creativity, and the future.
Culture is alive, shaping identities and communities every day.
Art tells stories of resilience and vision.
Artists blend tradition with innovation.
Cultural preservation creates sustainability and empowerment.
Culture evolves and adapts.
Music and dance unites communities through movement.
And right here, in the heart of our cities, artists and creators are keeping these cultures alive.
On Culture Cove, let's explore,
celebrate, and preserve the arts and culture that define us.
And of course, we still have Dr. Sahadatu Adamu in the studio with us. Now, Dr. Adamu, much of your work focuses on, sex-based violence, human trafficking, and the likes of it. And I would like you to share with us, what kind of help do you think those people need after such terrible and sad experiences?
I'll say that anyone who is or who has experienced any form of abuse, it doesn't matter which, definitely needs psychosocial support, because most times you hear people say, oh, I render, support, and I give them, maybe I empower them, I share stuff, I just make them comfortable. There's no support without psychosocial support, and that's the truth. Because you have to first detox the mind. That's where everything is stored. That's where the memories, that's where, the fear, that's where the anxiety, that's where everything is saved. And so the subconscious mind has saved something for so long. You have to begin to take it out, detox it, before you put in anything new, because the conscious mind will not even be sure of anything again because of lack of trust, lack of stability, lack of reassurance, lack of security, you understand? So you have to find a way to just detox the mind. And the best thing you can give anybody who has struggled or who is struggling in that space is psychosocial support. You have to help them detox their mind. You have to remove all of the things that people have said to them. You have to take out the things that they have also stored in them. You have to take out all the names that they've called them. You understand? Out of their memories, out of their mind, and probably just put something else, that can help them reintegrate nicely into the society. Because no matter how much money you give them, the society is still watching. The society will still point fingers at them. The society will still say things. Oh, that's an ex-convict. That was the girl that was raped. Oh, that's the girl that they said they trafficked. But what do you do to, support them to face what the world would throw at them when they're out there? Of course, is psychosocial support, because you have to build them, get them to that point where they're built, they've built coping skills. They are strong enough to face whatever it is out there and can, fully reintegrate without having issues. Because it's so clear that sometimes people that have experienced trafficking, all right, will come back as survivors, but are looking for another person to re-traffic them. Why? Because of the shame, the guilt, the fear of reintegrating. Will the society accept me? But when you're able to get them to understand, that support that they have for them psychologically, they can do for themselves, building their strength, getting them to understand resilience, building their capacity, coping skills, they can face the world regardless of what the world throws at them. They're willing, to move without really having much to struggle with. So it's important. I will always say, there's no rehabilitation without psychosocial support, and that's the truth.
Well, there's quite a lot that psychosocial support does, and of course the community. There's quite a lot the community can help to reintegrate these victims back into the society. And you just hope that all hands will be on deck to help these people, move on to their life, rebuild their life to what it was before the traumatic experience. Now let's move to your leadership and mentorship. You served as a mentor with the Tony Elumelu Foundation. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you integrate mental wellness and mental wellness in a whole into the conversation about entrepreneurship and leadership?
It's so amazing, honestly. So, when I was picked as one of the mentors, I just said, well, I know I'm a mental health person, right? And regardless of what I see in the space, I'll make sure that is also part of what I do. But interestingly, my mentee is also one who is also in the community, space, like engaging in the community. And it just tells you that even in the non-profit organizations, there are opportunities, right, where people can also make money, right? So not money off people that come to them, but money how they can also support the non-profit organizations that they run, right? So it's important to know that you can't even support anybody who is in the space without getting them to also know that their mental capacity is also needed in their own space as businessmen and women, right? So if you're not mentally balanced, you will also struggle. No matter how much you have, no matter the no matter how intelligent you are, you understand, you still need that mental balance, right? So for me, it's one key thing that the Tony Elumelu Foundation has done, to say that, okay, yeah, we can have mental health experts be a part of, this space to also see how they can support people around the space. By the way, like I said, the world is evolving. And if the world is evolving, it means that mental health should be part of the conversations. They're human beings that add to the GDP, right? And they're the same human beings that we talk about creating jobs and all of that. But they are the same human beings that are also struggling with psychological issues. So if mental health is not part of this conversation, how do you think they will do well? Because some of them get the funding, but at the end of the day, 1, 2, 3 things happen and they lose everything. So how would they get back to their feet without mental health professionals, to really support them? So I will say that in everything we do, regardless of what field you find yourself, mental health is one key thing that, you need to pay attention to, because it just helps you. So it's just like you having a headache and you say you don't want to take Panadol, you just want to drink water forever. How are you sure that headache is not for Panadol and it's just water? So it means that mental health conversations are just conversations that we should have wherever we find ourselves. And to be honest with you, it's been interesting being in that space, really supporting, my mentees and seeing that they are doing extremely well. So we're not just talking about business, but we're also talking about, emotional balance, where they can support themselves everywhere they find themselves.
Oh, interesting. Now, you've worked with organizations like the UNESCO, the EU, the GIZ. What lessons have you learned from international collaboration on mental health?
Yeah, so what I'll say I've learned is sincere conversations. Yeah, because you can't hide anything under the carpet and expect to see good results, right? So sincere conversations are major things that I've learned. I've also learned that impacting people doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be in Abuja to impact people. It means that I need to go where others are, people that can't come and meet me, right? So working in those remote areas are those lessons that I've learned, okay? And then also not looking at maybe the complexity of whatever it is I'm experiencing at that point. But the most important thing is result oriented. What am I going to get out of this whole thing? It doesn't matter how the struggle, how do I get to that village? How long is it going to take me? The most important thing is the result, right? So those are the things that I've really learned, that, not, limiting yourself to the things that you feel is what everybody's doing, but also making sure that you are looking for the right solutions for people. And so the gaps that you make sure you always want to fill, those are the things that I've learned. So you have to just be in a space where you are also adding value and not always wanting to take from people, but what can you also, bring when there's a need to do that. So I've really learned a lot working with, being in that space. But most importantly, like I will always say, is the results. What are we doing? How many people are we impacting? Is it really making sense? Are we going to the right people? Are they really feeling our presence? Are we being sincere with what we're doing? How prudent are we with the funding or whatever we have? How sure are we that we truly are genuine about what we say we want to do for people and not about us? So those are the things that I've really learned.
Oh, the results,
yeah.
Quite important. All right, Dr. Adamu, you've authored quite a number of books, one of which is the Real Me From Darkness to Resilience.
Yeah.
I would like you to share what inspired your writing and what do you feel, or what do you want your readers to take away from reading most of your books?
So because I work with, people with different issues, I feel like sometimes there's a need to always bring that to reality, because when we talk about evidence-based practice, where do you get them from? From the books, what you have learned, what has worked, and so from the real me, from darkness to resilience, I will always say that I had to tell a story of a young man who experienced drug use, all because he was trying to survive. someone says, I have a job for you, and he truly thought he had a job for him, but going into the person's house, he realized that there were just a lot of things on, and anyway, the journey started. And when the journey started, he didn't remember his family. He didn't remember he had children. He didn't remember anything. He left them for years. And he just found himself somewhere, on the streets doing what he loves to do or what the drug wanted him to do and not him. Okay. And until he met me, then things changed for him. So why I had to, title that book, The Real Me, is what you do under the influence of substance is not really you. It's someone else, because that's the drug taking control of your emotions, your spiritual life, your relationships, your finances. It takes over everything. But when you rediscover yourself and you're able to leave that, you find the real you, because there's someone, you have an identity, but when drugs takes it away, it captures that identity and it gives you a different one. So that book was just to, talk about, finding yourself and, telling yourself that you can do better than what drugs is asking you to do, because most times, they hide under the shadow of, this is who I am, and I found myself in this space and there's nothing I can do. So it's just to, get people to really understand that they can be who they want to be if they try, one more time. Then the reason I write, to be honest with you, is also to get my readers to know that a lot of things happen in the world. And if you're not in that space, you might not know. So you just feel like everybody's like, there are a lot of people that are struggling. So if you can read it and feel for someone, or read it and imagine why the next person beside you is doing certain things, I think it will help us. So it's just basically to create awareness on different things that people are struggling with, especially around mental health issues. But again, what that book has done for me is also get my clients to be able to identify themselves when they read. Because I've heard my clients say to me, oh, wow, I never knew that it was because of depression that I found myself using drugs. So that means you can also know the reason why you do the things you do when you pick up one of my books and study. So for me, generally, it's just to create more awareness around what people, are really going through, and then how we can also support them. But one major thing I always do when I write is also having, ways we can support people. So I don't just write because I want to tell you stories, but I want to also empower you, the reader, to know what to do when you find someone around you, because we believe that we have to build everyone to be a first aider when it comes to mental health issues, so that you can support the next person and not say, oh, I didn't know what to do, and, that's why it has deteriorated, this bad. So just to build the capacity of people, get them to know what, life generally is about, also learning what others are doing and how they can support them. So it's just an awareness material. By the way, I just launched my fourth book yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And that is also talking about how family can support people that are in the rehabilitation space. Because most times families will tell you, I'm tired. I've done this with this child for so many years. He has been the one taking my money, or she's been the one taking do you know, I've saved so amount, but I used it all on this child. The truth is, family is the root of recovery. Because when this guys understand that my family is still part of this journey and I really want to do it, so just I don't disappoint them, it helps. So it's really important to, create awareness and to have everybody be a part of the journey, and not just say, because you're in the rehabilitation center, so it's centered around you. Yes, it is centered around them, right? But most importantly, we need everybody to be a part of the journey so that we can really have them, come out well as we want them to.
Thank you, Dr. Adamu.
Yes.
We are wrapping up now, but I would like you to share with us. You are doing a lot in the mental health space, really, and I see how much you are helping people, regain themselves and get back to who they really are. Now, let's talk about you, because you've worked quite closely with people's pain, and that can be emotionally heavy. Now, I want to know, how do you protect your own mental health and your emotional stability? Because this can actually also pull you down in some way. Would like to know that.
So, what I do every year is I try to at least have therapy.
Okay.
Yeah, just to put myself together. So usually what we do is we go on break for a month. All of us, I mean, everyone in the office, we go on break for a month because we know that it is draining. There's what we call the secondary trauma. You have put in a lot from people. And so you also find yourself exhibiting some kind of things that you really don't want to. So we try to, take that break and then go for therapy, make sure that you go and re-energize yourself for the next year, at least. So if we're able to do that, like 3-4 sessions, fine. But I have a therapist as well. So it means that I can always reach out to him anytime I am struggling with anything, or sometimes when I put up like some kind of information that is too heavy for me, too heavy because there's the confidentiality aspect. So it means that you hear some things and you can't say it. But in your head, the whole day you're doing, now wow, how do I do this? You're talking to yourself alone, but you can't just, say it to someone. You should have at least someone that you can run to, also a therapist, that you can pour out that, knowing that it's still, whatever you're discussing is also confidential. And then there are ways that you can also support yourself and support your clients. So yes, I have a therapist and I always run to him whenever, I feel drained.
It's good to know at least you are secured so that you can also help others.
Yes.
Well, we've had such an insightful and inspiring conversation. And I thank you once again. It's really,
thank you for
I know
having
I
me.
felt like I was in a section with you, but that was really amazing. Now to wrap all this up, I would read out a report by the UNODC. It's a report on drug use, and I just want you to give a comment on that report.
Okay.
All right. So the report says among the estimated 64 million people globally with drug use disorders in 2023, just 1 in 12 received some form of drug-related treatment, according to the UNODC's World Drug Report. Now, I'd like you to just give a comment on this.
Okay. So, just 1 in 12 receive, some form of drug-related treatment. Truly, 1, rehabilitation is expensive. 2, stigma. No family would want his son or daughter to be anywhere. They are worried about what the society will say. 3, we do not have enough hands. We have only, I think, about 150 psychiatrists in Nigeria, averagely, if we still even have that number. Because we used to have 300, but 150 are residing in Nigeria. So that means about 150 are out already, right? We have few clinical psychologists. We have few mental health counselors. We don't really have the personnel, right? But the WHO, tried to just do something, which is also we are looking at the mental health gap. What is the gap? And the gap, one of the gaps that they have identified is manpower, right? We do not have enough personnel to really support people. So it means that we have to train more people to be able to at least, support people that are struggling in this space. But again, it's important to have these spaces where people can go to for treatments, because I'm not sure that even the government facilities, I'm not sure we have more than, we have Arrow, we have the one in Kaduna, we have, which one again? Lagos. I'm not sure we have more than 5 psychiatrists. I'm not sure psychiatric hospitals. I'm not sure in Nigeria. So you see that just tells you again that we need, more facilities. Yeah. And then the private facilities again, they're quite expensive as well. To feed one person is a lot, the treatment and all of that. So it's really expensive to have people in that space. But most importantly, I'll tell you, stigma. Nobody just wants to be in any psychiatric hospital. Nobody wants to be in that space, to say I'm receiving treatment. But we should have more people, have more hospitals, have more personnel that will really support people in that space. Maybe if we do that, then would have better people, number of people, going out or receiving treatment. But we must make sure that the conversations are normal, so that people can easily seek for help.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Sadatu.
Yes.
Adamu. It was quite an interesting conversation with you. Well, Dr. Sadatu is a mental health advocate, and I know that you might just be wondering why lots of mental health questions were popping in. Thank you. You really did justice to that. We are hoping that, when we come to sit again, we would have a better report on mental health workers and, of course, facilities for people to, have access to. And the mindset, the stereotype, I hope with time, it will be reduced to nothing totally. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we draw the line on Empower. I remain your host, Sharon Ajay. Until next time, see you again.